Climb aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast, your source for the latest in travel news, reviews, and strategies you can't afford to miss. And now, here's your host, travel expert and road warrior, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. It is finally here after so many days of saying we were going to wait till we got it absolutely perfect. We decided we were just going to hit the button and go. So this is the first time we are jumping into video, and Mr. Kerr is looking weird at me. He does this every week when we record. But if you're listening on audio, just know that for the first time ever, you can actually see us on YouTube, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes if you want to see us two goobers. And if we're lucky, we're going to be joined by a third goober in a few minutes. Our buddy Summer, back from an Alaskan cruise, is going to join us. I will say caveats: we have not tweaked the audio or the video at all. My color on these looks absolutely horrible.
Yeah, what color are you?
So we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it all out. But I figured if we just kept waiting, I might be old and dead by the time we got video out there. So we're going to crawl, walk, run, man. And you were just minutes from having landed at Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I literally walked in the door, said hey to the family, and set up this thing because I didn't know if this camera was going to work or not. Right. Well, this is now the built Atlanta studios. The hue lights behind me. I've got this big thing up here in front of me, putting the light on my face, and I've got the fancy camera. And they're all like, Kerr, you can have all this equipment. And I was like, do you really? Okay. Are you sure you want me to touch these really expensive things? That's fine. But yes, directly into the door from Toronto via Washington Dulles.
One of my favorite airports, Washington Dulles. Oh wait, that's my home airport. Yeah.
I've been in that airport more in the last 6 weeks than I have my entire life. I think today makes number 6, maybe. I just have more and more questions every time I go through Dulles. Like, we built the C&D train stop 500 yards from the C&D terminal. Why don't we just keep going? Let's get that train a little bit closer.
Exercise, man. Exercise. Well, actually, there actually is, for the first time ever, I can say with some very small degree of authority that there will actually be a terminal over the top of the train station. But we'll get to that in just a second. For folks who are just tuning in, you can find us on social media. He is at Kerr Points on all of those social media platforms, and I am at Pizza Emotion in all of those same places. If you want to send a note to us, we love those. You can send us questions, comments, emails, all that good stuff. Ed at pizzainmotion.com is the best way to get that done. Did you just disable your camera, Ricky Bobby?
I didn't do anything. Where'd it go?
You disappeared on me. You were there, and then you weren't. Guys, this is how good we are for video for the very first time. We are literally right on top of things. So while Mr. Kerr tries to figure out how to make his camera work, I will say that if you want to text us or leave us a voicemail, you can do that at 571-293-6659. The audience got 2 minutes of video.
Okay, click OK. Let's go down here, and let's go.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
For better or for worse?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. And Summer is still trying to get in, so we'll keep texting back and forth with her and see if we can't get her to join in. But I do think, just to answer your first thing on, not that that was a question, but there actually is a proposal now to build a very small concourse on top of C and D, which I think they're estimating will be open in 2027. Which means it would be like 2030.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. And looks like we are very close to having Summer on the screen here. But that will be the start. I think it's only supposed to be 12 gates, if I remember correctly. It's going to be the start of what's supposed to be the CD concourse. It was supposed to be built like 10 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it's coming, if you will. So
maybe asterisk. I think today was the first time I've been in the regional gates in Dulles, way down at the end of A. That was fun.
Okay, so we used to be there. That used to be Independence Air, one of my favorite airlines of all time. Those were the Independence Air gates, and you took the trek there from A to C, right?
Yeah, I did. And I have not heard of Independence Air. Again,
you haven't heard of Fly Eye Independence Air? Oh man, this was so.
I'm not that old, despite what people are seeing in the camera today.
so the coolest thing for me with that was, let's add Summer here real quick, see if we can do this without breaking anything. There she is on the screen.
Kitty earphones every time. Always the kitty earphones.
Now we just got to get her to turn her mic on, and let's see what happens if can I unmute her mic? Look at that.
I'm here. I just didn't want to interrupt.
Oh no, that's cool. Yeah. We won't even talk about the headphones. But
where are the Monsters Inc. headphones? That's the only one.
I'll have to go look in the other backpack.
So here's a question. If I know I'm the oldest guy here, but Summer, do you remember Independence Air?
No, I'm not that old.
Okay, yeah, all right. So here's the 30-second story on it. They were an independent. They were Atlantic Airways. They were one of the regional carriers for United. United squeezed too hard on their contract, and they said, "Piss off! We're just going to start our own airline instead of flying regional for you." They rebranded as Independence Air. They used to fly for like $30, $25-$30 one way to pretty much anywhere out of Dulles. Yeah, so I could get home to White Plains, Westchester Airport for $30 one way. They had James Carville and Mary Madeline did the safety video, very, very DC-esque, from the left side of the aisle and the right side of the aisle. And they lasted about a year and a half before they ran out of money. And then United just resumed their monopoly at Dulles Airport.
So speaking of airlines I've never heard of before, this just happened to me literally 45 minutes ago at the Atlanta airport. Walking through the check-in area to get to where the off-airport parking shuttles pick you up, and there was a line in between the Spirit and the Frontier desk of people backed up looking like they're going to check bags. And I was like, this is a weird place for a line. There's not a line between these two. I look up, and there's like a little poster banner behind a counter, behind a ticketing agent that says Southern Airways Express. And I was like, is there a new airline? Actually, I haven't. Is there a new airline of Atlanta I haven't heard of that's somehow flying people? So I mean, I'm looking it up right now.
Oh yeah, you've never heard of Southern? Yeah. So they do mostly essential services routes, but they actually have a fairly decent sized footprint. They bought, what's the carrier in Hawaii, Summer, that's not Hawaiian? Mokulele, I think. Yeah, so they bought Mokulele. So they have them, and then they got a bunch of like essential services routes around the U.S. They're bigger than you think. When you look it up and you look at the route map, you're going to be like, wait, what? They have that many flights?
So, I mean, this has got to be brand new because I've seen it. They have one route from Atlanta to Memphis, and I was not aware of that until I literally just walked by that desk and was like, what is this airline? How is there a new airline in Atlanta I haven't heard about?
We need Cranky Flyer on here. Brett Snyder would set you straight, but no, they have been around for... I'm not going to say exactly how long, but I'm going to say the better part of probably a decade. But they have been around. They're all like, tiny airplanes. Like, I don't know what they fly out of Atlanta, but they're mostly, like 10, 15, 20 seaters. I think Mokulele is all Cessnas, if I remember correctly, but it's all a bunch of little stuff like that.
Interesting. Wow, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So here we sit, Miss Summer, and you are back from your Alaska cruise, and you are part of the inaugural video episode, and your background is so much better than mine. Like, this is literally the background I was able to mock up in an hour this afternoon, and you've got airplanes and all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, when you build a house during the pandemic, when everything's already gone remote, you know that you need that.
Yeah, I'm working on that. There's currently a pod in the driveway as we gut the area where I aspire to have a background as good as yours.
Oh, well, I have faith in you, or more so in your wife, but yes.
I have a lot of faith in my wife too. She's very good at color choices. So we want to talk a little bit Alaska cruise with you, but I also want to know, did you happen to see the story that View from the Wing posted today about Marriott's suite upgrades? We might get into that a little bit if you heard about that.
Yes, rumor has it the Points guy has also reached out to Marriott and has a story that may or may not yet be published. But yes, I am at least loosely in the loop.
I think we're all loosely in the loop, so we'll cover that in just a minute. But for folks who don't know the background, you guys took, I think this was your first Alaska cruise, right? You've cruised before, but I don't think you've done the Alaska cruise.
You are correct. So I've been to Alaska and I have cruised 6 times or 7 times before this one. But I had never done both in the same trip. And I would say this is also the first trip where we were going mattered. Every other cruise we've been on, it's really been all about the ship. And this time the ship was a star, but it was also just a vessel to see some really cool ports.
Well, and this actually came up on your stories, and I thought it was very interesting. You've still got kiddos who are young enough to really enjoy Disney cruises, which we pay dearly for.
Very.
And then you told them that they had to get off the ship.
I know. So not to jump ahead, but it may have changed my cruising plan for next summer because it was so good. It was so good. And I'm so glad we did it. It was a perfect way to do it for us. But I'm not sure that I'm going to pay Disney cruise level prices in the near future again when I really want the destination. So like it was like, I think I said tongue in cheek, like, oh, children, get back on, like, don't stay on the ship. But the reality is like, it is a little bit of a push and pull because you've paid so much and you want to enjoy so many of the things on board, but you also really want to enjoy the ports. So maybe next time we'll just book a really cheap room on a different line and enjoy the ports. But it was great.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's been very high on our list. I actually don't know. I mean, Kerr, you've done a fair amount of cruising. Where is Alaska cruising sitting on your priority list?
We did a Holland America Alaska cruise back in
Oh, you did?
2014, something like that.
All right.
And it was legit. It was great. It was awesome because my wife and I are old souls, really. So we hung out with all the old people in Holland America and had an absolute fantastic time. We spent the majority of it in like the Holland America thermal spa, where you sat on these heated curved benches that had all glass windows, just looking out at the Alaska scenery. And like we parked ourselves on that for 4 days, I think, just sitting there on the bench looking out the window, and it was awesome. Loved it. Yeah, one of our favorite cruises.
Nice.
It was also very inexpensive. So
Yeah, that was not true of this one.
I don't think that's true of the Disney. So I hear you, and I think it's
Well,
absolutely
the Disney cruise is already expensive, and then you add Alaska, and I don't even want to know what you paid.
You don't really want to know. I don't really want to know, but I did price other lines sort of toward the end of our cruise when I was going to probably cry if it was over and I was never going to be able to do this again. So I started pricing other lines, and they were like affordable. Like we could do this again reasonably as long as we don't have to be with Disney next time. So yeah, don't rule out an Alaska cruise. There are some that are way more affordable than you would expect, but Disney's probably not going to be on that list.
Yep.
Well, and you talked about the destinations, and I did want to mention that because it came up with my wife today about cruising and whether you're on the ship or off the ship, and that her parents finally decided that they're going to get out and do some traveling, and they booked a cruise that I got to be honest, I'm really jealous of. So this is a celebrity cruise. To my knowledge, this exact itinerary hasn't been around all that long because I've seen, where they have like all the lines feature some version of a Northeast cruise with the leaves turning, stuff like that. This is a 12-night cruise, and listen to these ports of call. So it starts out in their Cape Liberty hub that they share with Royal Caribbean, stops in Halifax, then goes to St. John's in Newfoundland, then from there to Greenland, and then finally 4 stops in Iceland. And I looked at those cities. It's like, wow. I mean, that would be. I mean, I'd never want to spend any time on the ship. All those ports are just. That'd be perfect.
My dad is Mr. Go Go Go. So
Yes.
he's 74 years old, but he does not sit still. He doesn't take naps. He doesn't like sit in his heated spa and look out the window. Like he, like strap in if you're
Too
on a
bad
trip.
for him.
Strap in if you're on a trip with Grandpa Points because you're going to be busy sun up to sundown, and then you're going to get up and do it all again tomorrow. This was his first cruise, his only cruise probably,
Really?
asterisk. But it's not his thing, right? For a number of reasons. He loved it. And he was sad when it ended. And
Wow.
when I started telling him that, because we brought them on this cruise, so it was sort of a risk-free proposition for them. But when, again, we're getting toward the end, when I was pricing cruises, I was letting him know some prices on some other lines and how affordable they really are. And his ears picked up like Bugs Bunny because he loved being able to just wake up and you're in a new cool place. Like now you get to go explore Juneau and Ketchikan and Skagway, and now you're sailing up to a glacier. And I think people that discount cruising wholly, including my dad, like they're making a mistake because it can be so many different things, including if you're an active traveler.
Yep. To people who go, I'm never getting on a cruise. I'm like, well, that's not true. Like you should just.
I mean, it might be true, but like they're probably missing out.
Yeah. Yeah, they shouldn't say that.
No.
Well, and there are a couple of unique routes that you can do if you want to cruise Alaska. And I haven't gone back through these because we talked about doing it when the kids were much younger, and then it just didn't work out. But like as I recall, there's the inside passageway to do it, and then you can also you can cruise from Alaska down to Vancouver, Seattle, or you can cruise from Seattle or Vancouver up to Alaska. But as I recall, generally all those itineraries are essentially one-way itineraries.
Ours was round trip from Vancouver.
Oh, okay. How many days?
It was a week. So we left on a Monday. We got back on a Monday. So Vancouver really then is also a cool port. We stayed an extra day and did some stuff there. So we saw Vancouver, we saw Skagway, Ketchikan, Juneau, and then a glacier day where they get you up as close as they can to a glacier. And you're seeing seals and seal pups. And we saw whales, even from the ship, not just on like a whale excursion, which we also did. But it's amazing. And I think it was so great. Like I said, that the only even little bit downside is that you wanted more of both where you were and of the ship, and you can't always have both at the same time.
Yeah.
I noticed in your Ketchikan port that you did the world famous lumberjack show.
Well, okay. So
Because we also did that lumberjack
So
show.
I was not going to. I mean, it is exactly what it sounds like it'll be. It's a very tourist, like, ooh, 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 guys cutting things, climbing trees. I mean, they're cute.
Okay, we totally have to cut that soundbite for the future and use it over and over again.
But the biggest disappointment was all of the lumberjacks on our day were about the size of Ed, and I was like, wait a minute now.
Hey, now.
These are some pencil thin small lumberjacks. Like,
no, we had a diverse mix, but it was not on my list of things to do. However, plot twist, we dock in Ketchikan that morning, and my dad is like, so do you want to go to the lumberjack show? And I'm like,
anytime somebody asks you that in life, ladies and gentlemen, you say yes.
Yes, of course I said yes. And he bought the tickets, and they were much cheaper in person, and they have discounts available in person, like for veterans and otherwise, that they didn't have if you booked through the ship. So it ended up being a lot more affordable than I thought. And we didn't bring the kids or my mom or anybody who wasn't into it. We just went and did the Team USA nonsense and had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Did you find, I am curious, because the only thing I never remember researching when I did the Alaskan cruise was how much the excursions would cost.
Oh.
Did you find them to be as brutal as I would expect them to be?
Woof.
Woof. The lumberjack show was quite affordable. Yes, so we did not do the top of the line excursions because could not afford it. So if you're talking about the land on a glacier helicopter with sled dogs, that's $800 a person. That didn't happen.
Ooh, oh, plus.
We also did not do the little ship that takes you closer to the glacier on the glacier afternoon. That was pretty pricey again per person when you're booking for a family.
That's probably only $600 a person.
Absolutely not. So instead, we did the ones that were sort of middle tier. We actually hadn't booked anything in Ketchikan until the lumberjack show, but in Juneau and Skagway, each of our excursions were $279 a person for adults. Kids were a little less. But I think that they were good choices because what we found is if we didn't have a solid plan, it was next to impossible to get the group moving because the ship was so fun. So it was really a blessing that we had the excursions at a certain time. One of them fell apart midway through because the train had something on the tracks. And so we couldn't do that half of the excursion, which was a bummer. But then chaos set in and everybody had different opinions of how to spend the afternoon. And that's where I became very grateful that we otherwise weren't having that problem because we had a plan and a booking.
Yeah. I'm curious. Did you based on being on the ship for 7 days? Like I said, I've always sort of internalized that it was going to be a 10 or a 12 day if we did an Alaska cruise. If you did do another one, are you thinking about doing one of the longer one ways, or do you think you liked the go and come back to the same port?
It's hard to say. I loved what we did. So if I got to do what we did again, great. I would not be unhappy. I also would not have been unhappy if our cruise ended in Alaska and we could have done more there before coming home.
Yeah.
Because I really have loved some of our time sort of more interior in Alaska in the past. So if we were to do it again, that would be great. But I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. Starting and ending in Seattle would have also been fine. It would have been cheaper. And it would have saved some of the hassle of flying into Canada, which wasn't bad, but domestic's obviously easier. So I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. But yeah, more time in Alaska would be great.
We did round trip out of Seattle, and it was just a lot of cruising to get to there. So the boat was going fast the second you left, and we're going fast coming home, which I thought was great because I could feel the entire boat really moving. Emily, not so much. Didn't think it was great. But I just remember we picked up that deal. From what I remember, it was very last minute in true Kerr form, but it was just such a great deal. We got a balcony for whatever ridiculously cheap price was, because 10 years ago we did not have a lot of money. So it was awesome.
The Alaska companion cert would also be quite handy if you were flying in and out of Seattle.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, and I think as I recall the itineraries, I think the thing I liked about doing the one-way itinerary was, to your point, you've got a bunch of ground to cover whether you're leaving from either Seattle or Vancouver. If you do a one-way cruise that maybe is a couple of nights longer, you also get the chance. A lot of those ships feature multiple small ports on the inside passage, which I think would make for an even more interesting voyage than the one that you had. You might be able to get 4, 5, 6 stops.
But if you're on a ship, if you invest to do something like Disney, where the ship is also very attractive to you, I was very grateful for our sea days and really, really wished we had one more coming home. Because, of course, that last half of the last sea day, you're packing everything back up and getting ready to get off early. So one more of those would have been quite nice.
Well, I think this is the dilemma because my business partner, they spent a bloody fortune to do a long European Disney cruise. I think it was a 12 or a 14-nighter, and they were in a massive suite. So I won't even mention the number on here.
Must be nice.
It was disgusting. But to that point of like you're going to all these incredible European cities, and your kids want to see Mickey every day, and there's a real tug of war there. I remember him talking about how they really had to struggle to get the kids enough kid time while they want to get off in some of these cool port towns.
Yeah, I really right this second I'm pricing out. Y'all are gonna probably have a heart attack, but I'm pricing
One
out.
of us is, and it's probably gonna be me.
Pricing out booking interior rooms on a not Disney cruise line, much more mainstream and affordable cruise line for Europe next summer. Ed's making a face.
And now they can actually see it.
I know. But yeah, I'm pricing out interior rooms because like if we're going to go all in on booking a cruise just for the ports, like, oh, maybe we're going to go all in and then do Disney on a sailing where it is about the ship. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And it would be a third of the price of the one room I have on Disney next summer to book 2 rooms interior, not with Disney. So we'll see.
I keep getting. I did the cruise program status match to the.
I need to do this.
I keep getting for 6 months now. Carnival's been sending me the free cruise offers that says ending soon for 6 months. One day it is going to end. I'm going to be bummed, but they have the interior staterooms on the Europe cruises, which I don't think I'm going to hop on a Carnival cruise out of Galveston or Tampa anytime soon.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard and following Nick Reyes, who's done several of these, and Sean Coomer, the Europe cruises look awesome. And they have, I mean, all of the interior rooms on these are just, you pay as taxes and fees.
Yeah.
So I'm been very close to hitting the button on this a few times for the Europe cruises.
I'm very close myself. Not with Carnival to start. I think I'm going to tiptoe my way around the cruise industry, but yeah, it's just once you get used to Disney, and I love Disney, but once you get used to Disney prices, like it's amazing what can look like a bargain. So
right.
The only problem now is my wife, who both of y'all know is not very much a Disney person, tells me I only want to go on Disney cruises now.
I mean, she's not.
And I'm like,
great taste.
I'm like, well, that's great. So, I mean, start saving up your pennies or whatever, because maybe in 30 years we can afford
when the kids have their kids. Yeah. No, I think I still think I'd probably want to have even just a porthole to have that light. Like the balcony isn't necessarily critical for me. My wife loves the balconies, but to your point, I think the reason why we'll do something very similar for our next cruise. I started to do some research. As you guys know, our daughter had some real struggles on our last cruise. Throw up or vomit is her kryptonite. She saw somebody throw up on the ship and immediately went into panic mode, and now just doesn't want to cruise. She's sort of opened up to, okay, fine, but I'm too old for Disney cruise now. And she goes, but you got to make sure it's going to be as calm as possible. And in all the reading that I've done, the European cruises, the water is significantly less likely to be rocky than the Caribbean cruises. So based on my reading of that, I really do think that's, like, we're going to do one or two things for her last summer living in the house before she goes to college. And that'll either be a long European cruise or it'll be an African safari. And I don't know which one it'll be, but it'll be one of those two. I hope I'm not in an inside room, but you never know.
All good choices. I will say with Alaska, because I got this question a lot on Instagram, because I showed a little bit of my room and my parents' room, and I gave them the balcony one. Mm-hmm. They loved it. I took the more affordable window, the ocean view window porthole thing.
Porthole, yeah.
And I didn't miss not having a balcony. Now, they said their cruise wouldn't have been nearly as enjoyable without the balcony. However, this was my first one without having one. I didn't miss it one bit. Like, I could peek out the window, and when it was awesome, I went up on deck. So I do not think that on an Alaska cruise, you have to have a balcony because I was getting that question a lot. Save your money if you need to and do better excursions. But I will say the one thing that was absolutely worth the money and that I would bring on every Alaska cruise is those magnetic hooks. You may not need a big bulky jacket except on deck when it's windy, but you absolutely should buy magnetic hooks because you're going to have so many layers of things to just hang and grab. So that was the best money we spent.
I could not do Alaska without a balcony. I'm that guy. Like, if I'm doing it, I've got to sit out there just because the memories that I have from our other cruise, especially when you do the glacier cruising day, is just sitting out there with a bottle of wine and looking at the glacier on the balcony.
We were on deck with a bottle of wine or a glass of wine. But like with Disney, literally it's going to be probably $3,000 more for the balcony.
Yeah, I'm not doing a
Ooh.
Disney balcony, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
Richard got standards, maybe.
Yeah, no, not unless $5,000 in Disney gift cards fall out of the sky. That's
I mean, when they do, please call me. I'll come over.
And if they do fall out of the sky, I still don't think that's what you're spending them on. I got to be honest. I think you'll find some way to ration them out until your kids are in college.
Well, now all three of us have dues to pay every year on our
We
DVC
do.
points.
Yes, and the gift cards are great for that. But you'll just be renting those rooms out. Come on, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, I've got all the feelers out right now. It's great. I'm gonna lock some people in this week.
Richard Kerr is at it again, ladies and gentlemen.
And that should be the next episode that we have. We should have Summer back on to talk about all of our DVC contracts.
As
That's
soon as
am
the
quite
market's not as
excited.
good, yeah. But we got to keep it a little secret for now because I'm still wheeling and dealing, shuffling around, trying to see what else is out there right now. So
right,
to everybody listening, watching, the tens
Pay no
of
attention.
you,
Yeah.
pay no attention to what we were just talking about.
and we're up to 20s of people, not 10s. Come on.
Oh, okay, it's 20s people.
So while you're wheeling and dealing, let's talk a little bit about this Marriott thing. And just as a quick transition for folks as well, if you want to support the show, we've got our own little version of Patreon. You can join our Slack community. We have a happy hour on a weekly basis. We've got some pretty cool giveaways going on, and we have members helping members answer questions. And if we're really lucky, I'll shame Summer into coming on for one of our happy hours one night and hanging out on Zoom for half an hour with everyone. So Richard has popped in. Richard actually popped in from Epcot during one of the happy hours.
I did do that. Yes.
Yeah, you did. So just to frame up this Marriott story, for folks that don't know, Marriott has had a suite upgrade program for quite some time, ever since they inherited it from SPG. It hasn't been terribly rewarding. It typically allows for upgrades within 5 days of arrival, but they don't clear very often, and the moniker for this program are Suite Night Awards. Still, that being said, because all the other benefits that you can choose for the various levels of top tier or higher tier elite status with Marriott that are lesser benefits, most people end up choosing Suite Night Awards and then just getting frustrated that they can't use them, or maybe not everybody, but a lot of people end up getting frustrated without being able to use them as efficiently as possible. So the news out today that Gary, our buddy from View from the Wing, has found is that Marriott is planning to increase the amount of money that they pay the hotels, which should increase the amount of times that these suite upgrades are available. A few brands that weren't participating before, including Ritz-Carlton, which I thought was a surprising one, will be a part of the program. And there is the potential that they could change and start clearing stuff 5 days earlier. Before I editorialize my opinions on this, and since Summer has our guest, Mr. Kerr, I'm going to ask you to go first and tell me what you think about these proposed changes.
It is time for something to change. We're all pretty good at what we do, and even we probably have had some suite nights expire with Marriott, where that's not typically the case with Hyatt's version of how they do suites. So I think in order to make it a real value add to the program, it is time. So my fingers are crossed that some of this comes into play. Honestly, the part of it that catches me the most, in addition to the hotels having an incentive for this to happen if they're going to get paid more by Marriott, is the inclusion of other brands, like you said, like Ritz-Carlton. Ritz-Carlton has been this like very strange stepchild of the Marriott program, where all the things that apply at, say, a St. Regis, if you have status with the program, don't at Ritz-Carlton. And that alone has made it sort of challenging to navigate the Marriott program. So more incentives and more consistency would be great moves all by themselves.
Mr. Kerr, where's your head on this?
Yeah, it's time for something to change. It's certainly there. Anytime people start debating the choice benefits and people are like, I'm not going to pick Suite Night upgrades because it's not a tangible benefit, it is time to change something. So what I like about this is twofold. Number one, apparently they've heard the feedback and they're taking it on board and they're looking to make changes. That's always great when you hear a company doing that. And number two, some of the specific changes, like a Ritz-Carlton suite with a suite upgrade award, that'd be great. Now, I'll just take a club room. I don't need the suite, but the Ritz-Carlton clubs are out of this world. So I'll do that. And maybe that's what it means when it says even more room types available. What I hope that doesn't mean is that the Junior King Suite double, that's 3 square feet bigger than the base room, is also counted like we've already kind of seen. I hope it's reserved for premium room types, but excited about this and hope it comes to fruition.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things. First off, I would agree on the Ritz part. I think that's the part to me that's the most appealing. And I'm not even as concerned about room type. I'm going to allude to something that you said, which is there are some pretty awesome Ritz clubs around the world that can be a value add. When you talk about one of Summer's favoriteest things in the entire world is, really awesome free hotel breakfasts. And I would say some of the best hotel breakfasts I've had have been at Ritz properties. So even if the room, like I take the Ritz-Carlton Denver as an example, they have a club level of rooms. The rooms are essentially identical to all the other rooms, or at least last time I stayed, essentially identical to all the other rooms in the hotel. They just happen to open out onto a really nice, sprawling, breakfast buffet, if you will, different pods of food and stuff like that, in a very relaxing, private, quiet area. That's a huge plus to me. I think the other thing that I would say that surprised me about this, and this gets into the nerdy part of things, is that as it stands today, Marriott doesn't actually pay anything to hotels when they upgrade members. Literally nothing. And now I understand that at the base levels, I am surprised that there isn't some sort of an offset for the premium properties. And I think that if we're gonna see any true amount of inventory pop up for this, it's going to be because these higher end hotels on lower nights realize they can pick up, an extra $50 or $100 taking a guest and upgrading them that they were never going to get otherwise in shoulder season. I still don't think we're going to see, popular vacations at Ritz properties and on tropical islands in peak season. Like that's just not a unicorn I'm willing to predict a sighting on.
But so properties would rather the suites go empty than take any incremental revenue.
I think it depends on the property. I do think there are hotels where, and I've worked at some of them, where the thought process was it costs so much to renovate those rooms that they just as soon say, here's our minimum rate for that room, and we just don't want the wear and tear on it. And then they can get more life out of the room. They just don't want it full 80% of the year. They want it full 20% of the year so they can get an extra 3 or 4 years out of it. It's different from different hotels, for sure.
So they've calculated the number of times the door opens and closes before it needs renovating, and they've got that. No, they haven't. They got some old cratchety guy that's like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." Like, where's the data to back that decision up?
But the theory if they keep it down, that they, especially because in a lot of those special rooms, the soft goods are one-off soft goods, and I think part of that issue is that a lot of the one-off soft goods aren't built like the stuff that's in the regular rooms. So they do tend to wear a little bit quicker because they're not built with fabric that's meant to be sat on 6 million times.
Or meant to be sat on at all. You ever walked into some of the hotel furniture and you're like, I don't really think I should touch this. I think I'll just leave that ottoman right there. I don't want to put my feet on that. It looks expensive.
Well, this will sound nerdy, but going back to the days back when I used to be in the hotel business back in the 90s, and we were evaluating chairs for high-end conference centers that we operated, and they had a stat that they called the double rub, and so they evaluated fabrics. This fabric is 60,000 double rubs, and what
that
it meant
could mean a lot of things.
yeah.
Are there couples checking into this hotel room? Is this a single stay?
So the double rub was defined as sitting in the seat and turning to get comfortable. So 60,000 double rubs meant you could have 30,000 people sit in it before you needed to reupholster the chair. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's really what we're doing today. Okay, we're doing double rubs.
Speaking of hotel suites, I'll tell a story on myself and how I'm an idiot from my trip to Toronto. I just got back from the Andor House. Is a Joie de Vie Hyatt in Toronto. I stayed at the Hyatt Regency last time in Toronto. It was perfectly adequate, but not staying there again. The problem was, they gave me a wonderful suite. They upgraded me at check-in to this suite. The east side of the room had this massive window. So really high up north in the summer in Canada. So about 5:30 on the first morning, the sun is blaring through. And all that I think this window has are little wood slats that you like move up and down, and it closes it. And it's just not doing anything to keep the blaring sun at 5:30 out of the room. So like in a half asleep daze, I'm messing with these slats. I'm looking up at the ceiling like, there's not another blind here. I'm looking for something to throw over the window and like tuck in the blinds. I get the robe from the bathroom, and in the middle of tucking the robe into the wooden slat thing, the whole wooden window pops out at me like it's on a hinge, and behind the wooden slats there is indeed like a blackout blind. So I was like, okay. So, and I like literally just left this half mess of a robe hanging on the slats open while I pulled it. So when the housekeeper came in, I'm sure she was like, well, who's this idiot? Like, what is going on here in this room?
His name is Richard Kerr.
If you're in Canada and you got the wooden slats, there's a hidden blind in there. So yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, I think that's going to run us out of time. We do have some other stuff to cover. We haven't covered the new Lindner and Me and All hotels as part of Hyatt. I do have some global services updates for things I've learned about the global services program, as well as some very interesting service standards on some recent flights. And
I'm a United Pro now, man. I just
Yes,
finished
you
my
are.
14th segment in the last 6 weeks, so I could talk to you guys about PQPs and, well, not really. Plus points are still this mysterious nebulous to me that I don't understand at all.
Are we going to talk about how, like, I'm still not going to qualify for 1K this year? Probably. We could talk about that next week.
Ed's still not going to qualify for 1K, and he like gives them thousands of dollars. Like,
I've been flying my butt off, and I'm still only at 32 segments for the year, and I need 54.
Only at 32 segments in June. I think you're doing okay.
Well, yeah, but remember, I typically take the summer off. The only reason why segments are going to go up in the summer is because award flights count now. But I mean, typically I don't fly a ton for business. I spend the time with the kids. So I have to be, by June, I have to be ahead of halfway because I'm going to lose most of July and August.
Aren't you? I think you are on path for that, though.
I'm close, but I need 20. I still need 20 segments. That's a lot, especially when you count look, if a round trip, if I'm going Dulles to Vegas and back, that's 10 round
Ed's going to be done by October.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Although what would be awesome is if I finish this challenge and neither of you are 1K next year and I am. That would just be
Ed will be. I probably will not be.
Okay, I would get 1K just out of spite if you were the only one that's going to have it. Okay. I would mileage run the heck out of that.
I don't know if I'm going to finish this. Just too many PQPs. I'm going to be there on segments, but I'm not.
I would be at 1K on the old chart this year. A
lot of people would be.
Probably will not be on the new modern era events.
And it's the segments is going to keep you from it, right? Probably PQP too.
It's probably everything.
Yeah.
But yes, also segments.
Yeah.
I was surprised that when they do the 1K boarding, this trip to Toronto in Atlanta, both times the flight today, coming to Atlanta and then leaving early Wednesday morning, when they did the 1K boarding and like 12 people rushed on the plane with me, I was like, well, God, there's this many 1Ks in Atlanta? Like, you're going to Atlanta or
Dulles, because your hub. Once you get to any hub, it really bulks up. And Dulles is, there are a lot of 1Ks in Dulles. And
there are a lot of 1K period.
Yeah.
Next paragraph.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're going to fix that problem now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are going to fix that. I mean, Houston, the 1K line. Holy cow! You line up for a flight out of Houston, and they call 1Ks, and a third of the plane jumps to the front of the line.
There's 12 people left who aren't. Yeah.
Exactly.
Summer and her 30 best 1K friends board the plane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, Summer, Alaska is an unbelievable destination trip. But curious if you have anything else cool, sort of like hanging back in the radar there that you guys have coming up the rest of the year.
Yeah. So. Lots of things. One will be Disney with my buddy Richard Kerr.
It's
on points rented from Ed.
Yes, I'm involved, but only a little bit.
And I'll be checking out the double rub at the Riviera Resort.
There you go.
I'll rent you Riviera.
I'll leave you and Emily to that. But so we've got that, but we're going to go check out a part of Canada we've never seen outside, a couple hours outside of Montreal with Josh's family in July, which at the very bare minimum will be better weather than the 103 degrees it's already here in Houston. And then planning next summer is really where the rest of my focus is at the present. I think we're going to be heading to Europe, and probably a cruise will be a component of that, and looking for those award flights as they start opening on some of the international programs about a year out. And that's what we're up to.
Never know. You might even get a one more 100% transfer bonus out of Mr. Kerr for a built transfer partner. So if you keep
I need to get that card. So one of these days.
I thought you finally did get it.
No, I got the app, and I get the free points each month. Yeah. Answer the questions.
You should definitely get that before they run their next 100% transfer bonus. So.
Well, I'm going to need me some international business class next summer, so I'll be doing all the things I can do.
I've got 2 sets of Air France international business class tickets booked, courtesy of Mr. Kerr's generosity. So,
yeah, I have one. I got
to
cancel.
Him. Yeah,
but now summer I have to book Orlando to London, leaving our Disney trip on Virgin Atlantic.
You so fancy?
We're gonna be flying,
nice.
So it'll be me and all of the UK tourists on the flight from
You're not
Orlando.
Gonna do Eurowings? Come on, do Eurowings. It'll be even better.
Well, they don't fly to London nonstop. I gotta go to London. I think it's either British Airways or Virgin Atlantic.
That was really a joke. I'm sure Eurowings to Europe is pretty darn miserable. So.
Well, do they still have business class up there? I don't know.
Some of them do.
We'll probably be flying Iberia to get some cheap business class, flying to Spain if our cruise plan holds next summer. But we'll see.
Does Iberia do Houston, or do you have to connect somewhere in the U.S. first?
Dallas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Summer planning next summer, and I'm like, what am I doing this weekend? I have no
Right.
idea.
Honey, that's how you have to do it when you need this many seats and you are on a school schedule.
Yep.
I know. Yeah.
For sure. And just to bring it all full circle so that there's finally one less card in the deck for you guys to pull on me. The next time that Summer comes on the podcast, she will no longer be able to say that I've never been to Hawaii.
Wow.
I'm so excited to hear all about this.
Yes, it's gonna be a great trip.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So it is totally my fault that I haven't asked you to come on sooner, even though I had it in my head that I had asked you a number of times. I apparently didn't. So we hope that you will come back soon to see us.
Can't wait. Thanks for having me, as always.
See and be seen. So, Mr. Kerr, what do you got for travel coming up?
Got day trip to Chicago on Wednesday, the day this episode comes out. So I'll be checking that out from my next United flight, although the flight times make no sense. Then we've got Disney. I've got 2 camping trips planned out. Then I've got to go to Europe, maybe twice. And then it's looking like a fall Asia trip to Hong Kong and beyond.
Very nice. Very nice.
So it's going to be, nothing ever slows down for any of us. So.
No, I'm
And
looking
we
at
don't
you.
really want it to, so that's all right. Keep it going.
Sometimes I do.
I'm a little too highly
Don't
scheduled
lie.
this summer. Between work trips and travel, I think I'm home for less than 14 days between now and when the kids go back.
But you're going to have a really hard time picking up segments. Mhm.
None of them are on United. I'm flying, so I've got Hawaiian to Hawaii. I'm flying Air Canada to go visit family up there.
You can get United segments, still be fine.
Not for what they charge for flights. Nope, not for 3 times the number of miles that Air Canada that Aeroplan was selling that flight for.
Okay.
And then I round out what else? Oh, so I've got 2 trips. I got the Beeline trip with Charlie to go to Lego headquarters, which will be awesome, and then the trip to the Faroe Islands. So it's going to be a fairly busy year fairly busy summer for travel stuff. We're going to punt all this audio and video over to Jeremiah and see if he can make any sort of a semblance out of our debut for video. And as we round it out and come home the final stretch, I can promise that the video will only get better from here because my blank background and Kerr's funky little alien green stuff in the background there in the pictures. So I can't really get any worse. So whole lot more to come with summer travel and our buddy Summer coming back on the show. Until we upload again, we've got miles to go.
You look like Violet Blue from Willy Wonka.